Remember, there's some pretty important information here in the disclaimer. You might want to give the video a quick pause and read it.
Hello, my friends. This is Wake Angel 2001, and coming at you with the last thing I'm making for Zack, and it's something that I don't think I've ever done before: Godzilla. Specifically, this is 98 Godzilla. Actually, it's not 98 Godzilla, it's the 98 animated Godzilla. Okay, little tiny bit of backstory here. In 1998, they made a Godzilla movie with basically no feedback from Toho, creating one of the most infamous movies in the Godzilla franchise. In fact, in Japan, it was so hated that they say that they took the God out of Godzilla, so they just call it Zilla for short. And it did have a brief cameo in Godzilla Final Wars, where it attacked proper Godzilla in Sydney, Australia, but got blasted in like no seconds flat. So, yeah. But still, if I'm sitting here and I'm going to tell you that the 98 Godzilla movie was a bad movie, well, I can't really say that, because it was not a good Godzilla movie, but it would actually be a pretty good kaiju movie if you didn't have the burden of the Godzilla license on it. It's actually more similar to one of those old B movies from the 50s. I think it was called like The Creature from 20,000 Fathoms or something like that. Like if it was just a random movie about a giant monster that emerged from the ocean and started rampaging around New York and had a bunch of babies, then the worst thing you could say about it is that the baby scene was kind of a ripoff of the raptor scenes from Jurassic Park. Aside from that, it's a pretty decent movie, all things considered. Like, all it needed was a different title, really. However, it did have an animated series based off of it. And despite the fact that we're using the look of this Godzilla instead of the more traditional Godzilla that we're used to, this was actually a really good cartoon show. I'm not gonna lie. I watched every episode of it. I enjoyed it. It kind of has the same energy of Men in Black, the series, but instead of being about aliens, it's about kaiju. Although there were kaiju aliens. Wait, were the aliens kaiju or were the aliens normal size and they just controlled kaiju? It's been a long time since I watched this show. But yeah, that's my verdict. The cartoon was actually pretty good. And aside from the fact that Godzilla looked different, it actually did have the proper energy of a Godzilla animated series. Seriously, there was another Godzilla animated series made back in like the 70s or 80s. Godzilla! And Godzuki. Anyone who watched Cartoon Network in the 90s remembers that one? Or maybe if you actually are old enough to remember when it originally aired back in its day. But yes. Godzilla the animated series is okay. So, let's get on to this. Zack wanted me to make the baby Godzilla from the first episode of the animated series. And it turns out that the baby Godzillas from the movie did get a toy, but, you know, look at the color scheme on this thing. Like, that's not a Godzilla color scheme. That's barely a lizard color scheme. What were they thinking? So, essentially, what I had to do was take this and paint it into the cartoon color scheme. And seeing as how the figure can't be dismantled in any way, there's nothing to it but to do it. So, boom! Here we go! Godzilla in a cartoon-accurate color scheme. Yeah, you know, gray in the back, kind of a grayish pink for the underbelly, little bit of lilac around the muzzle, eyes have a yellow sclera with orange irises, random blue spots, white claws, there you go. Well, the blue spots have a pattern to them, they're not random, but, you know, they're not really based on anything specifically sculpted for the most part. Although I did try to follow some natural bumps that were on the creature's skin. So, yeah, the most interesting thing about this is that I just had, all of the, all of the, colors are mixed. Like, the gray paint is the only stock paint on this entire figure. Well, also the Okay, the blue spots and the yellow sclera are also stock paint, but, they account for such a small amount of the figure. Like, the lilac on his muzzle, I mixed a little bit of gray with purple. The pink of his stomach is red, white, and more gray. Use a lot of gray paint on this is what I'm trying to get at. But yeah, just waffling around so you have enough time to admire these pictures. Alright, let's let Sonic the Hedgehog take us out like he always does.
Oh, hey everybody, it's me, Sonic the Hedgehog. Just here to remind you that if you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button. And for even more amazing customs, don't forget to subscribe to Wake Angel 2001. Because between you and me, they're way past cool.